Ladies and gentlemen, from North America, you welcome in your hosts, Bradley and Robbie.
Good morrow. Good morrow. How's everybody doing?
Gentlemen. How
Hello.
you doing
Howdy
today?
doody. We should just switch up how we say hello every episode until episode 200.
Yeah. Just, we're literally like Googling how to say it in different languages before we get going. We have a
Tag.
special guest from overseas today.
Yeah.
Ted joining us.
Yeah, from all the way from Sweden. Fun fact about Ted: the way this all happened was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, maybe at this point. But I was doing the live. No, it was 1 week ago. I was doing the live throwing, and Ted was in the chat, and I made some comment about I now know how to say it. Us Americans will say iDog, the new Kastaplast mold that came out. And I made some comment about like, oh, I wish I knew how to say all these Kastaplast molds like a little bit better. I feel like an ignorant American not saying them correctly. And Ted popped in the chat. I was like, hey, I can help you guys out. So he did actually, not only did he send me like audio of how to say these all correctly in Swedish, but he gave me the backstory on like the meaning of the name for everything. And so it was really great, excellently produced. So I think when he jumps in, you'll probably see he's done a few podcasts before, which is very cool. But I know it's not the iDog, it's the edug is how you say it. So he does have a lot of Kastaplast in his bag, which is great. So we're going to hear some very popular Kastaplast molds that we've been saying wrong the entire time, including the Berg, as us ignorant Americans call it, and he'll say it again, but I believe it's the Baddie is how you actually say it, which means mountain in Swedish. So not only are we coming at you with fixing your bag today, we're coming at you with a little knowledge, a little foreign language pronunciation. So we're going to have a little class today as well as a little bag fixing. So Robbie, I think we just bring Ted in. What do you think?
I think let's do it, dude. Game on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in all the way from overseas. Ted, how you doing today, sir?
I am doing fine. I said to the guys, I'm really a little bit nervous, even if have been doing this for like 3.5 years doing podcasts. But it's always difficult being a host, not a host, a guest on somebody else's podcast.
Well, and I think it's funny. Yeah, I guess Ted, you've had a disc golf podcast in Sweden. You said for 1.5 years now.
3.5 years.
Almost. Oh, 3.5. I'm so sorry. No worries. So he's been doing it for a while. He's been doing it longer than me. So you're the pro. I'm the amateur. That's okay. We'll get through this together. I think I teased a little bit at the beginning, Ted, but you're going to be our in-house expert, out-of-house expert on pronunciation for Swedish discs specifically. So we'll call you in when we need that. And I'm going to try to butcher all of them with my little bit of arrogant new knowledge that you gave me through an audio file. So again, thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries.
And hey, those of you who are listening that have always been curious, how do you say, is it the cax? Is it the cox? What is it?
Yeah.
Well, it's the caxe, sort of.
Yep.
So we'll go through those, but we'll all learn together. But before we learn anything about the discs and how to pronounce the disc, Robbie, we got to know who Ted is as a player.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ted, how long have you been playing disc golf?
Oh, you're going to be surprised with this one. If you're going to guess, how long do you think?
Well,
let me look
you
again.
started a disc golf podcast 3.5 years ago. So I would hope that you were playing before you were just like, hey, what should we do casually? Hey, we should talk about Frisbees. So I'd guess a COVID player, and you got in real hard.
All right, before you answer, I'm going to go hot take.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that you started at the same time as the podcast, and your podcast was you figuring out how to play disc golf.
That would be nice, actually. I started playing 1994.
Whoa.
Let's go.
That is
a bit before the COVID boom, actually.
I would say. Ted, I've not asked this question before. How old are you?
I'm 46 years old, so not super old, but I got in pretty early, and that's because there was a disc golf course at my school. So it was actually one of the first in Sweden. That were like 5 when we started, pretty much.
Wow.
So
that's crazy. I would not have guessed that you were 46 years old.
No,
so
nobody says. Everybody says like 10 years younger than that. So
yeah, that's what I would have said.
Yeah.
Okay, well then. Wow, what a story! What a different. This is a different episode all around.
Yeah.
This is going to be great. I'm excited.
It like you had me fooled, because if I would have thought, like, it's interesting just based on selections, because it's like, okay, KC AVRs is a putting putter. That's a pretty iconic bolt like move. I feel like if you find that should have been my giveaway, not COVID, because I don't know many people who are COVID golfers who putt with KC AVRs.
Yeah.
Like that's a tried and true thing right there. You either putt with KC AVRs because you've been playing a while, or you're on Team Innova. Those are about the only two options. And then, yeah, but I was looking at the destroyers and I was like, no, he doesn't have like old destroyers in his bag. I mean, he's got a Ricky in there, and that's got some age to it. But
I used to have like the old STS destroyers in the bag, but they kind of went out and got sold to Jeremy Colin, actually. So one of the in the bags that he has a like baby pink SDS destroyer with a signature in the star, and that's actually my signature in the star. So I was pretty like stoked when I saw that. I was like, all right.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's so sick.
The posters, it's actually world's biggest disc golf weekend. 90, I think that's 96 or 97, and then the other one is like 98. So
let's go.
Found them in my old boy
awesome.
room when I visited my mom like a couple of months ago. So it's pretty stoked.
That's so cool.
That's sick. Okay, 94. That is incredible. I'll go ahead and show my age here, Ted. That was 2 years after I was born.
All right.
So,
And 4 after me.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
so you've been at it a little while longer than us. I'd love to hear it.
Yep.
So if we took you out to a field, Ted, and we said, hey, we're going to put a basket X amount of feet or meters away from you. I told ABB before we started, I've got my meter conversion.
I actually
pulled up on the
did
side.
feet conversion. So the metric guy went to the US for the Imperial.
Well, I apologize
No worries.
in advance.
sorry about that.
No worries. I actually did this today just to be like fresh out of the car, so to speak. 15 feet, 9, always the first like front rim banger.
Okay.
Then 25 feet was 5, and then 40 feet was 3. So, and I'm actually more, what do you say, comfortable with like 40 feet than 25, because 25 is that tweener distance. And I'm actually changing up the putt a little bit, so I'm not super dialed at the moment.
So what are you switching from? Like more of a push to a spin, or spin to a push? Or
I used to be. This is the funny thing. When I started, there was like no YouTube at all, so we didn't have any content to went to. So everybody was spin putting in Europe at the time, which I did as well. And mental game not super strong. So spin putting. Everybody's like, when I throw the disc, they're like, oh, why are you on like some of the last cards? Just you wait till you get to the basket. And so I actually saw a putting tutorial for push putts with Dave Failberg and Ken Climo and Ricky. So change to push putt and shave so many strokes off the game. Just because you don't give yourself like 50 feet comebackers all the time. So diehard push putter, like to grave.
On. Glad to have you in the club. Glad to have you in the club. People are like, if you're a push putter, you can't putt from that far. And it's like, Calvin Heimberg would beg to differ.
Yeah, same here. I'm like circle 3, like my favorite distance. Actually draining putts from circle 3 more often than like 25 feet.
That's funny. I feel the same way, because yesterday during the putting live stream, Robbie, did you get to tune into that?
I was in and out.
Okay.
In and out.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, you've got lessons all the time, but there was like a card. All of us were dealt a card at the beginning, like a advantage card, and mine was like I could step inside the circle or inside circle 2, and I was like, this is useless for me, because even at 35 feet, I'm not step putting. I'm at 40, I'm not step putting. Like, I don't need that. So I guess it was an advantage in the way I took it away from someone who like Hunter, or that's very dangerous with a step putt, or Connor. So I guess in that way I was playing defense, but it did not help me at all. So it's good to hear that other people feel that way too, because they made me feel like I was an idiot.
Yeah.
Do you switch putting putters when you get Okay, I see
Yeah,
that you have a.
I got one
that one KC.
Barsby like deeper dish KCA bar, which is actually more floaty and got more bite to the end. So I can actually put it like really far up to the right and then have it dump into the basket.
Yeah. Okay.
That's cool. And then you, sorry, I don't want to jump
no
in the
worries.
putters. I have questions later.
Yeah. So if we for throwing, you said how are you on bottom card? So I'm gonna guess throwing wise, you can crush some frisbees. So
Used to.
how far?
I'm older now, so not crushing.
I was gonna
but
say. So how far are you throwing? If we put a basket X amount of feet or meters away from you, how far are you reaching forehand and backhand?
forehand, I'm crap. Like, actually, dog trash. We used to we didn't do forehands when I started at all. Like it was
Yeah.
everything was DX. So Hyzer flip game, super strong. Not so much forehand. But I said I worked on it a bit, and 213 something like that. I'm pretty confident with the like a forehand, but it's pretty trash. I'm not consequent at all with it. But backhand, I would say 410, 420 ish, something like that. 430.
Okay.
Nice.
That's good to know.
Nice.
I actually throw the Stieg about like 400,
Okay.
which
Wow.
is like a 6-speed.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
So when you're like here in the States, we will like if someone throws like 400, you're like, wow, you crush a disc. Is it like if you're clearing like 110 meters over there, is that where people are like, if you tell someone I throw like 110, that is considered like average, or what's the vibe that you get over there?
I wouldn't say average. I would say more like 328 ish, 330. That's probably
Okay.
if you're starting out or you've been at it a while, but you don't like do a lot of form. Say a lot of people struggling there, but I don't know. Like not a lot of beginners do like 400. I would say.
Yeah. Well, and I'm looking and I'm seeing that like at 328, 330, I'm at 100 meters. So is that kind of like when you're getting into disc golf, the moment that like what you're saying over there? Like, because I feel like for the States, when people, as someone who's done a lot of lessons this last week, the amount of people that I've had that are like, oh, I can't throw 300 feet. I want to throw 300 feet. That's a little shorter, honestly, than it feels like for overseas. Would they be like, I just want to clear 100 meters? If I can,
I would say
throw
if
100
you
meters, I'm
start
feeling
out
great.
and been at it a while and didn't have anybody to coach you or something like that, I would say you struggle with 300 as well. And mostly it's me being like super old into the game. I've seen all the mistakes people do where they choose like the super overstable stuff and, oh yeah, I see this destroyer. This is for me. And you're like, maybe you should like throw a 4-speed or something like that. Super neutral, get the drift or the turn, and then, sneaky distance like uplink or fuse or Svea or something like that. No worries.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, Robbie, talking about the distance thing for just a second, do you think that, like, I feel like an average hole distance is like 250 ish for most courses. Like a majority of the holes are like around that like 250 to 285 range on like your typical, hey, I'm an amateur, I'm going to go play. Do you think that's why we all want to throw like, hey, I need to throw 300 feet because I need 300 feet of power to like get in birdie range of those baskets? Do you think it has anything to do with that?
I think I definitely think hole length average depends on where you're at because like some courses, like, I mean, even if I look at Alabama, like I've never played like disc golf in Mobile down here. We have 3 major cities that people play in, and one of them is not the capital of the state because Montgomery is just there because it was there originally. They have disc golf, but it's okay. And all the Montgomery people are now losing their minds in the comments, but that's fine. You know. So Birmingham has a lot of disc golf, Huntsville has a lot of disc golf, and Mobile has a lot of disc golf. Birmingham, we're short technical. Like there's probably 5 holes across the entire city that you have to throw over 400 feet to get a birdie. And then Huntsville, though, is all crazy long golf. There's only like 2 or 3 courses up there that are actually short when it comes to things. And so like for them, but that's why also when you go to Huntsville, everybody throws far. You play MA3 in Huntsville, and you've got a guy on your card guaranteed that throws 400 feet, like
Right.
at least on every single MA3 card. So yeah, I would say the reason most people want 300 is not because average hole length is necessarily 250 ish. I would say average hole length probably across the world is probably closer to like 280. Like there seems to be a lot of courses that are, for all the really short courses we have of the peaks view of the world, there is a lot more courses that are going to play a lot more like Fallen Creek yellows.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I mean, I'm looking at Timbrook. The average hole length there is 230 feet. That's like the most popular course here. Now,
Yeah.
There's some variations there, but I'm just going to look at Falling Creek Park while we continue talking. That's kind of I'm a numbers guy, right?
It's not average hole length, I think, that gets people. It's that hole.
Yeah, I would say
I want to throw 300 feet because I want to birdie blank.
So Timbrook's a good example then, because like 230 is the average hole length, right? But what is it? Hole 11, 13. 12, 13 is 355 feet downhill. If you can throw 330 feet of power and like get there, you can park it. And so is that the hole that's like, oh, hey, I want to be able to birdie. That's my nemesis. I want to be able to birdie that hole.
Yeah. I would say for sure. Like, because if you can throw 330, you can birdie every hole out there. Easy.
Yeah.
Like,
I would say when like my home course where I started, I would say average hole length is about 350-ish, which is probably why I started out and then throw pretty far or crushing the disc. Like, because there was some like 500 plus holes as well. So that's what we started with. And just like back then as well, it was like Viper, Whippet, Gazelle, Cyclones. That was like the distance drivers back then. And that's like, what is it, like 6 speeds, 7 speeds, something like that?
Yeah.
And I'd actually throw a Gazelle about like 400. So
it's impressive.
And that was back in the days, but still, like, and that's pretty much my game as well now. Coming from a really old school background, everything is a Hyzer flip. Is that what we had back then? Everything was like flippy, super flippy.
That makes sense.
Then these guys just started being like, oh, what if we just made everything super beef?
Yeah, and I went away from the sport as well and
distance.
came back, and then everything changed, like Star Plastic and Destroyers and Wraiths, and I was like, mind blown, like, what's happening with stuff? Like, super weird.
Yeah.
I get it. So my last question then, Ted, would be before when we can go and jump in your bag, because I know that the people are not going to be ready. This is going to be a long one. I can already feel it. And I'm fine with that. But what would you say is the biggest strength of your game?
Hyzer flip, pretty accurate with the Hyzer flips as well. Like woods, no problems. Like 400 plus feet in the woods, love it. All down for it, and also like bombing huge drives as well. So
okay, let's go. Let's go. That is not a strength that we hear very often, which is phenomenal.
I think that's the European play as well. Like a lot of like long wooded courses, like tight fairways. So as you've seen on the DGN coverage, that was pretty good display of like the European, the Swedish Open course. It's actually like 40 minutes from me. So, and that kind of represents the majority of course designs around this like area as well. Also, you're going to see Ale next year on tour. Which is an awesome course. Like really, really nice.
Yeah, I'm excited to see a little bit more European golf next year. It'll be a lot of fun.
The thing as well is that we have like really good internet connection as well, like Wi-Fi's and stuff like that. So we never have like dropouts that you see on some of the wood courses. Like you can have, like, I would say, I don't think that Swedish Open is as wooded as Northwood Black, but it's not far away from it because it's in like pine forest, deep in like the mountain areas of Borås, Sweden, which is, in the outskirts, and they had like super quality connection. So, but I think that the Swedish government as well are really keen on doing like the infrastructure with internet and fiber and stuff like that everywhere. So that's probably why.
That's it. If there's not money to be made over here, then they're like, why would we really try to get the signal boosted out there? It's just woods. Could we turn that into a neighborhood? Nah, okay, yeah, we're not going to run it out there. That sounds fine.
Yeah.
It'd be tough. It'd be tough. Well, let's talk about some discs.
Yep.
We talked about your putting putters for a little bit. Any other notes you want to throw in about? I am noticing that you've got whales and KC AVRs in there.
That was my question.
I am trying out the whales a bit because it's actually a bit straighter than the KC AVR from the box, which is like a little bit slightly beaten in AVR. And I know that Ricky, when he was on Innova, he actually went onto the whales to get a little bit more glide from the get-go. So I'm trying them out. It's super hard to find them here. So I'm probably going to go straight back to KC AVRs. But, it's a trying. And the grip is super similar as well. I can't, when I get them in the hand, I don't really feel a huge difference.
No, I can't remember what the name of it was, but I do remember that right before Ricky left, he was trying to get the Macbeth treatment of getting his own line of discs, and they I don't think they even changed anything about it. They just basically re-released the whale, and they called it something else. And it was like, oh, this is going to be Ricky's putter. Like he's getting his own putting putter. So the comments will have to, unless y'all remember, like the comments will have to help us out on that. But I do remember the whale getting a sort of resurgence right at the very end of his time. And then it was like, oh, I'm putting with these grenades or something like that. Like it literally was something silly. I'll have to look it up.
And Anthony Barella putted with whales at the end of his end of a time too, correct?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know about AB. Very possible.
I remember
dude hung out with Ricky a lot.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, let's talk about, so we obviously talked about the AVRs and the whales. That was my main question is like, why do you have two sets of putting putters? Makes sense you're trying them out.
Yeah, it's just a trying out. Probably not going to stay in the bag.
All right, and then the Ohm, we don't see it. The Ohm doesn't get a lot of love. I think it's a really good throwing putter. And
so slept on.
Yeah, your notes say dead straight flyer, and you're saying you got a lot of woods golf. I mean, is this something just like ripping Hyzer flip dead straight down a tunnel?
Put it super straight, and then it just keeps on going super straight. Doesn't deviate at all from the flight. And sneaky distance as well. Like it goes so far. I tried out the what's the other one? Not the Envy, the other one from Axiom.
Proxy?
Yeah, Proxy in Eclipse, but it flips up a bit and drifts. I don't like that. I want to keep it like super straight. And any line you put it on, super good.
Yeah, I pick it up and I'm like, man, I think I could throw this. It feels really great in your hand. I just have not really had any experience with it.
You should get it a go because you probably love it. It's like I tried it. I bought a Proxy and an Ohm, and I keep going back to the Ohm, which is pretty weird. I don't know why, but it works.
All right, and then I think at the bottom of the bag here, we got to talk about the OG disc that causes controversy on this channel and Robbie's channel and Swanky's channel and everyone's channel. And say it for me one more time. Baddy. Yep. The mountain, if you will. Yep. Tell us about that. You being a Kastaplast guy, what do you love about the Berg? And then secondary question, the body, and how does the body, and how do you say just X? Is it just
Baddy
X?
Yeah.
How do you, and tell me how they complement one another for your game specifically?
We have to start somewhere, and we have to start with this one, OG. Robbie knows what this one is. Have you seen this one?
Yeah.
Brad?
No, I have no.
This is the OG one speed.
Okay.
Piranha from Piranha from and this is like my bread and butter. Super overstable lid, like a polecat with like a predictable fade, I would say.
Okay.
Yep.
And then they
Interesting.
discontinue that, which I hate. It's so sad. It's like one of the best molds ever made. And you can quote me on that. It's like
Okay.
super good. I can throw this one like max power, dead straight, don't flip up in the wind, and it just hooks in. So I thought the Baddy was going to do like the same, which it didn't. It's just slower and more like dead. So that's why I went with the Baddy, because it's almost the same like thumb truck thing. And then they came out with the Baddy X, which is a little bit more like a Piranha in the dump. So that it kicked out the K1 and the K1 soft Baddy, the X, just because I can put it on a little bit more Hyzer and it actually fights back at the end.
Okay. And so the controversial question is the glide one. Do you think it has almost no glide?
I wouldn't say so. I would say it glides a fair bit.
I would agree with that. I would say it has plenty of glide.
Especially my K3, it's beaten to death and it actually flips up and then just goes. But it's for me, I really like to rip on the discs when I throw them. So for me, the Baddy is so good. I could actually like hammer down on it and it doesn't shoot by the basket in like so much. So it is good. I used to go with the Rhino as well before, but also hard to find really good Rhinos.
Yeah.
But
Seems to be a problem with
like
that.
the Rhino way more than they like the pig.
Yeah, you're gonna hit a sore spot for Robbie when we start talking about rhinos. It's just
no. I think I talked about it on last week's episode because someone commented, "How many do you need, Robbie?" And I will tell you, listeners, that I say stuff during every time I record that I just don't remember what I've said. Because people will go back and comment like, "Oh, Robbie, let me help you with that," or like, "Oh, what a funny statement he made here," and I'm like, what did I say? Like, I literally have to go back and rewatch. So I don't know if I actually said, but because Innova loves the Rhino more than the pig, I literally have pulled a pig out of my overstable throwing slot right now and have a Zone GT in the bag. Like, I've just gone opposite direction because.
Also impossible to find, so you really need to figure out what you're doing down there because you're asking for more heartbreak.
Yeah.
Well, see, and this one I'm like, honestly, not as hard to find because apparently it did like the battle packs didn't do that well. So if you find some smaller retailers, they went all in on the battle packs, and so then I'm just doing them a favor when I roll up, and I'm like, hey,
I can take these.
I'll buy all your Zone GTs, please.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, cool, $5. So
Yeah, that's great.
no, it's interesting you say that about the K3 Baddy because I feel like the same thing happened on my pig. My pig also is a 3-1. I think technically now it's a 4-1-0-3. But like it feels like Precious Child. The more beat in it got, the glide just went through the roof on it. So have you noticed that with any other discs that you feel like had a low amount of glide or things like that, the more seasoned that they've gotten? Or have you beaten in other baddies like you have that K3?
I think for the Baddy, it's mainly the K3 that is going to beat in to get more flippy and then drift, or like turn a bit and then just keep on going. The K1s don't bit into that because it's just premium plastic, I think. But back in the days, I used to have like the 98 full stamp Rhinos, which were like money because you can beat them in and then they just flip up and drifts. And don't get me started on those. It's a heartbreak.
Hey, it's funny that you say that because I also the glide as far as like beating in, I feel that way with Electron Envies. That's why I like them because they get super straight or they will like flip up and turn slowly. But I do feel like those discs just like stay in the air. Like when they're really seasoned in, they just stay in the air so much longer than a fresh one if you pull it off the shelf. So I wonder what the science is behind that. There's got to be some science behind why that is.
I think so as well. And I think mainly goes down to like base plastic that beats in, because this used to be for me as well, like because I'm so used to throwing base plastic and they always beat in. Same thing with the rocks. You beat them in, and they just pop up, and then just slowly drifts and goes forever. So I don't know. I think it's mainly like DX plastic or like baseline plastic that gets those flight characteristics. I think because I used to have a Prodiscus Jokeri, the same that KJ USA used to throw with, and I got one that it's so beaten in. It looks like a big crater or meteor or something like that from the outer space. And I can throw that one probably, let's see, like 400 ish, which is sick for a putter.
Yeah, I would say so. That's a dream of mine. I'll get there one day, I suppose. So just kind of rounding out your putters, I was talking about the Envy because I saw your Envy.
Yep.
So do you find that like the ohm is like you're just dead straight woods, whatever line you put it on kind of putter? And how's the Envy complement that ohm?
I would say
the
the Envy for me is more OS.
Okay.
Mine is like dead straight with the predictable fade. It's not that beaten yet. So, but I'm having a little bit trouble with the Envy because it actually goes too far for a putter. So it's kind of a tweener. It's almost like a mid-range, I would say.
Yeah, that was my question in transitioning to the mid-range conversation is the jump basically Envy all the way up to the CACs?
Yeah, I would say more like Envy is more like a rock.
Okay.
In that sense, like probably 340, something like that on the Envy, 350.
Okay.
So rocks, KC rocks versus DX rocks.
Mine is flat top KC Pro.
Okay.
Just the flat tops. The Innova makes these really flat. I actually love them, but really hard to find as well. But I get a bunch.
Yeah.
Robbie, are you seeing the stamp on that rock?
Yeah. I mean, it's
so cool.
This bag is beautiful.
Yeah. Make sure you all check out the Disc RPM. The link's in the description or the show notes, depending on where you're listening or watching. But there's some very cool discs in this bag, and shout out to Disc RPM for making us be able to see them. Yeah, so good.
Yeah. When I go to like a classic, I think of my coach Mike Strauss, who when he has multiple DX rocks in his bag. He's got San Marinos, he's got some Ontarios for the turn. Like he's all about the DX rocks for his entire lineup. And I'm like, why don't you jump to the KCs? He's like, I've just got DXs that just do it. And props to him. So
I pretty much used to be the same, having like a stack of 4 or 5 rocks in the bag, different wear and tear. So, but that was before I actually found Svea.
So tell us about the Svea. That was where I was heading next.
What do you want to know?
Sell us on the Svea, because the show note here, seasoned and my most valuable disc in the bag.
Yep.
Hyzer flip, slight drift, and Hyzer back point and shoot. Why should everyone here bag a Svea?
If you want to shave strokes off your card or the scorecard, just get a Svea. It is actually like I can put it on any angle. And it's so funny. We have another podcast in Sweden, and they actually one of the guys hate the Svea. He says it's like the world's worst disc ever made. So I have this running joke all the time, like it's the best disc ever made. And it's super. If people throw the fuse, it's actually super similar to the fuse. And for me, being an old school player with a lot of snap and a lot of spin, I can actually push it on a Hyzer all the way. I can like keep it dead straight. If I put it on a little bit Hyzer, and it pops up and then it just goes. And I can actually, depend on the angle, to get it to do whatever I want. And throw it like 360, 370. Easy.
Yeah, that's what in my personal bag, that's what I like my Origin for, that same type of like flip up, and it will turn, but it won't turn too much, and it might even come back depending on how much Hyzer or what the terrain looks like.
I heard that the Svea is like really similar to the Origin as well.
Yeah, it sounds like the way you're describing it, definitely. And that's the thing I like about like that type of disc. So like the Origin, what I like about it is I'm kind of the same way. I don't throw nearly as far as you, but most of my discs I like to like. I don't want to back off on power when I throw them. I want to feel like I can throw them hard. And I feel like with the Origin, I love to throw that Origin hard. I had the Lobster in my bag in that spot before. And that's the thing I love the most about the Lobster is that I could throw it really hard and it would pop up and turn for me, even with not super high arm speed. But I wouldn't ever burn over. It's just like a nice, gentle drift. The Origin is doing that now for me, which is great. But yeah, so the Sphia sounds like great. I've picked it up many times in the warehouse, and I've always thought maybe I should try this out. So maybe on another episode, Robbie, we can recommend that one and give it a try. Wait, have I thrown it? I don't remember. I don't think I've thrown it.
I would say it comes down to hand feel if you love the K1 plastic as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably...
How could you not?
You don't.
How could you not?
Yeah, exactly. It's. I heard that they try when they went to House of Discs. They actually one of the requests from the owners was that to keep the plastic blend and not to mix it out with the rest of the House of Discs brands. That they should always keep the plastic blends for the K1s and so on for Kastaplast.
Yeah, if anything, I feel like they should have. The other brands should have taken Kastas, like leave Orbit Grand, or like leave Grand Supreme Grand and all that. Leave it, and then just everything else. Let's just go with what Kasta's doing.
Yeah, I agree with you, Robbie. Should have went the other way.
The Stig seems like it would be very similar in terms of flight to the Svea. So what situation, shot selection wise, are you jumping up to the Stig versus, and feel free to obviously pronounce how to actually say this.
Stig is actually more, it's a further Svea for sure, Svea for sure. It gives me like extra distance, and it's a sick disc as well. If you want a true Hyzer flip, goes forever, just Stig is such a sick disc. It's all like, for me that's either or Svea. If I, same kind of hole, but it's just a little bit longer, then I go up with the Stig.
Yeah, I feel like and Robbie, correct me if I'm wrong, I think once you hit like that 400 feet mark, there's probably a little bit more distance you feel, or a little bit more advantage you feel between two discs that are very similar like that, maybe one speed bumped up. Do you feel that way, Robbie? And I mean, obviously you throw very similar distances.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the nice thing about like having those options is it like, if you want to, I would imagine, I don't know, I'm not throwing sticks, so I'll throw this more to you, Ted, but like I would imagine when not only does it go farther, but you feel like you can lean into it a little more. Whereas like if you tried to put the juice into the Svea, it probably could handle it, but it just brings in more error potential.
Also, it
because you
puts
might
the
be
brakes on
overworking.
to so much earlier, like the Svea. It actually just goes and then dies, whereas the Stig just keeps on pushing. And I would say when I go to the Stig and Kaxe is when I want the flight of a fairway driver, but I don't want the flight characteristics of a sharper disc. I don't want the skips. I want the characteristics of a mid-range disc, flight-wise, that don't deviate too much when you kind of hit it bad. So that's pretty much why I go with both the Stig and the Kaxe, because it actually does mid-range things, but at the fairway driver kind of distance.
Yeah.
That's a really smart statement.
I'll give a shout out to, it's a video on Bedanza's channel where he played with Joey Buckets and Braden Sides, who are both Kasta team members. And it was like a 3 video series where they played 3 courses in Georgia together. And there is a hole that I can't remember if it was like 400 or 410 or something like that. And it's Joey and Braden both step up. And I'm pretty sure they throw a Svea, not a Stig. And they get it. Like, I mean, they crush these things. And like Bedanza's like what disc was that? Like that was so smooth. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a mid.
I think it's actually the Stieg, because it's Clay Edwards got the K1 Hard Stieg,
Okay.
which they call the Glacier Beam. So, and it actually is. I mean, you can put it on, like, it's so, just because it's a neutral flying mid-range as well, you can actually put it on whatever angle you want, and it actually, but just keep going that way. But I've thrown Stieg as well, like 400, so, or even 410. So it is a crusher, and it's sneaky distance as well. Like it just because of the turn and just glide on it. Yeah,
it's interesting. I had like kind of a revelation about Kastaplast as a whole that I'll share here in a minute. I want to jump up to a new disc, the disc that made this all come together, which is the Edug.
Yep.
Very close.
Yep.
Not the iDog, as we call it here in the Americas.
I love iDog. It's so cool. And I've seen some really sick dice as well with a robot dog on it.
Yeah, shout out Dyer's Guild did that, I think. Yeah. So shout out Dyer's Guild. We've worked with them plenty in the past, and yeah, I love that die was sick. I'm like, I need that disc. Yeah. So that's obviously a very new disc for your bag. Tell us a little bit about it. How's it working for you?
Basically, it's a T-Bird from Innova.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Do you feel like it has more flip up?
A little bit more flip up and a little bit more turn. I would say that flight numbers. I hate flight numbers, to be honest. It's like I never worked with flight numbers in my whole life. When we started, there were no flight numbers, which I think sometimes flight numbers is good, but at the most part, because they are not neutral over every manufacturer, you have to take them with like a huge grain of salt. Innova, basically more stable than what the flight number says, for the most part, and. But I would say that minus 0.5 in turn, it actually does that. It flips up a little bit more, and I would say meters, we talk meters, is like 5 to 10 meters more further than like on every throw when I compared it to the Star T-Bird.
Okay. I think that's a very fair assessment. And it's kind of like caught my eye because I'm really... like the Evader is really like the T-Bird slot in my bag right now. And I'm trying to decide, do I want to find like some sort of more like overstable FD and just kind of go all FDs right there in the fairway section? Or do I want to do something like the Edug or something like that? Because I like the T-Bird. I don't love the hand feel of the T-Bird. And I also feel like, again, I don't feel like there's some variation in like which T-Bird you grab, and you know, some are going to be way more overstable for me than I want.
I can show you with this which T-Bird I compared it to. It's the old AJ T-Bird.
Oh, nice. That's sweet. Just throwing up these discs casually, like, hey, I got this disc. That's funny. The visual people, especially Innova people, are going to have a great time with this episode. All right, before we go up to like the distance drivers, and I'm gonna have Robbie lead that conversation. I'm not touching a destroyer. Like I'm like allergic to them right now. But I've always thought two things. Number one, why in the world would I throw a 6-speed? I'm gonna throw a mid or a fairway. You just said something profound to me, which may be simple to everybody else, but 6-speeds are great because they act like a mid-range but go as far as a fairway, and you don't want the sharp disc characteristics. Great sentences, by the way. I'm going to like really think about those. Number two, I always thought it was like really strange, like the Kastaplast lineup of discs, because they're like, I guess they're a little atypical to like, I don't know. I mean, Innova or Discraft's not a great comparison because they have so many molds, but like their concept between all their molds, or even like a dynamic, or even, I guess, really Discmania, there's like a pretty systematic approach, and they're all kind of in the same, like, you know, T-Bird and Evader like are going to be in the same as like an Athena, right? Those are all kind of like that same area. But Kastaplast has always been interesting to me because I'm like, oh wow, there's a lot of 6-speeds here. That's strange. Or, you know, they go straight from like the Falk or the Falk. I think Falk goes up to the like now the Oliva, which is new, kind of fit a gap that I saw. But it was just very interesting. But now you describing the courses you play and like kind of how your origin story as a Swedish disc golfer from a young age, the type of courses you're playing, and then like what's kind of required out of you for those courses. And now it all kind of makes sense to me. I'm like, oh, this was truly a company that is a Swedish company that developed discs for Swedish disc golfers.
Yeah, I would say so as well. And the funny story about how the Baddie came to be was Anders Källström, who is one of the founders of Kastaplast. He loves the Rhino. So he wanted to make a Rhino, and then he made the Baddie, which I think is a really poor comparison in a way, because I don't think they're similar at all. But for me, as a, one who throw the Piranha before and throw that one like 330, the Baddie was like such a simple thing to grab, and I want like a little bit more length on the Baddie, I would say, because I always get like a little bit short, comes up a little bit short compared to the
because zero
Piranha.
glide. That's why no glide at all.
Well, haven't you guys got the short glide is a lie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
So true.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So here's the question, Ted.
Yeah.
When Innova drops Halo Piranhas in the next 2 months, does the Baddie go away?
Bye.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
funny.
Yeah.
Because I know that we'll get Halo Piranhas before we get Halo Pigs.
That's true. You
think so?
That's a fact. You can write that on my tombstone.
I actually wrote to Panis when he had one of these stories. I was like, bring back the Piranha. For everything in the world, I'll give you my whole savings. Just bring back the Piranha.
That's funny.
No, based on the fact that they're bringing back all these old molds that
I've seen that as
are
well.
in
XD
Halo.
in Halo.
Yep.
Weird.
Yeah, because so many people were asking. Like, the forums were just littered
I
with.
think the Piranha is such a niche slot as well, because it got discontinued before a lot of people got into the sport. So a lot of people doesn't even know about the Piranha. But I would say it would make sense for Innova to bring it back now that everybody loves the one speeds.
Yeah, that's why I say we will have Halo Piranhas before, and I know because the Pig top is a Piranha top. So
Yeah.
I like.
But it's so funny as well with the Piranhas, because this one is like one of the good runs. I don't know if you see, but it's got a really sharp thumb track on top of it. And that was the overstable ones. Then they made the little bit flatter thumb track, which were actually flippy. So it's like really weird. But yeah, we hope.
These are crazy. Now, I'm on eBay right now looking. I'm like, what can I buy one of these Piranhas for? And like, they're like $85. That's crazy.
Oh man, I will send you one. I got a spare one, just for you to try out.
I can't even ask you to do that. I don't even feel worthy. Send Robbie one. That's who needs it.
Oh, trust me, if I want to throw a Piranha, I know where to go. I love my polecat. I've gotten used to the Halo polecat. I've gotten used to, and it doesn't have the bite that the Piranha does, but it has the torque resistance that the Piranha did.
Interesting.
Which the Halo polecat is phenomenal. The only thing I tell people, like when people are like, "Oh yeah, like the Berg, the Baddie, it does this, it does this." The only shot that I feel like the Baddie can do that I can't do with my Halo polecat is the force over hard forehand. Like I can't just yam on that thing on a forehand and watch it hold the whole way, but I can do that with Precious Child. So,
But it's
I've
just
got
that
that
run
shot.
of pigs that you like as well, isn't it?
I honestly, I will throw most every pig that's out there. The premiums have actually been questionable on some of them. Like I love the Blizzard pigs, phenomenal. It was like an old run of Blizzard pigs. Those are great. They just get really in the heat down here where we live. If I throw it on a 250-foot hole and I was parked and everyone else wasn't, by the time I get to the disc, I literally can just warp it in the summer because it gets so gummy so fast. And then the stars, there's actually a very small run of star pigs out there. I own 2 of them. I think there were like 750 made, and I have 2. And those are great, but they stand like off the shelf they stand up out of your hand. Like if I throw it on a forehand, it immediately flips up. And that just gets hard to aim over time for that overstable slot. So, yeah, I will throw the only run of pigs. I would say the 2 runs of pigs that I've like disliked immediately were there's some gummy champs. I have one hanging back there. It is the only gummy champ that I own because I immediately got rid of the other ones because they were questionable. And then there's like these Galactic XT ones that are super hard. A lot of people love those and they actually hold their stability for a little while. It's just a little too slick for me.
Interesting. I tried the pig, the R Pro pig, but didn't really get along with it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit too much speed compared to like the Rhino, because I compared it to the Rhino, which is so bad. You shouldn't do that. It's not the same disc at all.
Yeah. The Rhino is much more like the original Slammer to me. Like very, very straight, but it's going to have that little bit of a fallout at the end. And then I'll say before we jump into distance drivers, you said that they tried to make the Baddie was trying to make the Rhino. Yeah. That is, Jesse at Trash Panda loves the Explorer. Huge Explorer fan. He's one of the only people I know that like isn't sponsored by Trilogy companies and just preaches the wonder of the Explorer. And the Ozone was actually trying to become an Explorer. And then when it cooled, it was like, oh, this is a little flippier than we imagined it was going to be. Still a great disc, phenomenal disc, my favorite in their lineup. But it is fun when manufacturers like try to bounce back or try to bounce to, this would be fun. Like we come up with a slightly different version. And then it just isn't. And that's how we get amazing discs.
Yep.
Mistakes are happy mistakes. So looking at these, Racer, obviously fairly new to the bag, because it's just a fairly new mold. So talk about it in comparison to the other 3 destroyers that you have.
Straight out of the box, a little bit more turn. So what they said when they wanted to put up the Racer to be a seasoned destroyer straight off the shelf, I would say they hit the nail on the head. It is so good. For me, thrown a little bit with like all my disc that I throw with the baby Hyzer, it pops up, turns, and then comes back. So, and sneaky distance with that one as well. Like I get, 5-10 meters more straight from the box. So I will definitely buy more of those, especially when you're getting older and you need that sneaky distance.
Easy, yeah. So for your, how long did it take you to season in that one destroyer that was your first Halo destroyer? Because I feel like the stock Halos originally were so very similar to the Calvin one that you have in the back.
Yeah, I would say 4 years-ish.
I believe it. Okay, but I loved that run of Ricky's.
Yep.
I like that run a lot. It reminds me of the Racer. Like they felt pretty easy to throw right off the bat. So
I would say
you
this
find
one,
those two
the white
conflicting?
one that I got is a tick more stable than the Racer.
Okay.
And this one is pretty new as well. I got it here, and it's actually not that thrown. So, yeah. But it's super nice run, I would say.
So you can just kind of walk up the line for those 3 discs.
And then we get the Halo Calvin.
Yeah, and my question is, as someone who doesn't like have that arm speed or doesn't throw like these top end, like really fast drivers, do you really find yourself between like the Racer and that? I understand the Racer is a new mold, so do you see the Racer kicking out that other Ricky destroyer eventually, or do you really find do you find it necessary to have that small amount of increment between stability in those 4 drivers?
Because this one isn't seasoned yet, I would say yes. But I would say if that season's in, if I want to mold minimalize, I would say the Racer's probably going out.
Okay, that makes sense.
Or it depends on how the Racer beats in, because I don't know yet. it might be, it might kick out the Elba.
Yeah,
Well.
that was my other question. Or are you hoping the racer goes the other way and kind of beats in to be way more flippy than your destroyer is ever going to be, and you just kind of mold minimalize on the 12 speed line? That makes sense.
Probably, yes. Elba is now pretty straight with a little bit of fade, or I can actually get it to turn a bit. But I don't know. That's also pretty new mold for Kastaplast and for me as well. So I haven't really given it the beans yet. And
yeah, I love that the give it the beans has carried over all the way to Sweden. I love that. So random question, and then Robbie, I'll let you take back over for the Firebird discussion. But I see a lot of new molds in your bag. Do you find yourself being like a little more excited again about disc golf with all these new molds you're trying out?
I would say so, yeah. I always love like different frisbees and find some that make the bag. For example, I used to bag a Pyro, and then Nord came, which actually kicked out the Pyro. And hand feel, I actually like the Nord more than the Pyro. Because it's more similar hand feel to the Rock, with like the blunt nose and wing profile. So and super reliable. One disc that grows on me every time I throw it. I can actually push it straight and don't have to baby Hyzer things.
Yeah, I think the struggle that I have, because I'm trying to get better, and so I need to lock in my bag and start working on form a lot more than I do. My problem is I play for, months, and then I'm like, the Nord, that sounds really fun to throw. I'm going to kick off the Quake, and then I'm relearning the overstable mid-range slot in my bag. So I gotta be careful with that one. But I don't know a lot about Firebirds. Robbie, you probably are more Firebird equipped to talk about this if you want to talk about those two. I have a Sexton Firebird in my bag. It's really only there for utility. I'm sure someone like you can probably find more than just utility out of it.
Yeah, I have guesses based on my love of Firebirds. So you got the stamp is a little unclear. Is that a 2020?
I think it's 2020 or 2021.
Yeah,
I don't really know which run it was like. But the thing is, it's so sad that we mentioned this one, because that used to be super beating, but I forgot it about. Like I had two, and this is the new one. I used to have two, and my beat-in, I left it on the course, so it's probably gone.
Yeah.
But the thing is, now that Idog came, I would say this one makes more sense, because the old one were a little bit like a tick up from the Idog. So I would say I think this one fits in a little bit better, like a headwind fighter, kind of. But it's a kind of straight run of Firebirds, I would say.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about the fact that you're also not a forehand guy. So, like for me, where the Sextons really shined was I could throw it on a forehand for a comfortable 300 to 350 and know that it's going to push really straight, but it's always going to finish at the very end. And then jumping over to the Champ Firebird, that's just beef and just doesn't go anywhere.
Yep.
So does the Champ Firebird just serve as basically a shorter version of the Calvin Destroyer for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
perfect.
Utility only, kind of.
Yeah.
I can, for real, 213-ish, max distance. It doesn't go anywhere. Have you tried those?
Super flat?
Yeah, it's the FAF, flat and firm.
Yeah.
Have you tried those, Brad?
Not a Champ. I have a Sexton. Like I said, it's I think a 2023. So it's even probably straighter than a normal Firebird. And for me, it's like you're describing the Champion one.
I would say this is like a tilt.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I imagine that's typically why I've stayed away from it. I used to be like a Raptor guy, because again, Raptor's a little bit more usable for me than a Firebird. But I did find myself like the Vulture was this, so then I can throw the Vultures a little bit better, and they're getting beat in. But like if I need I think yours says get out of jail, but if I need to get out of jail like Thumber or like overhand, like that's what I'm chucking is like a Firebird or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, only utility for me. I barely ever use it.
so funny as well when you bring it out to the course and you have Firebird throwers. It's like, oh, I love my Firebird, it's so straight. And you just, oh, try this one out.
Yeah.
And they just throw it and just like, this is not Firebird. Yeah, it is a Firebird.
By name.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, so here we have it. We've talked through your whole bag. For those of you who have looked at the Disc RPM link, there, to me, Robbie sent me the bag and he said, hey, what do you think about this? And he's like, what do you see? And I'm like, well, I see a gigantic hole in like that fairway, upper end fairway control driver section for understability. Like that whole section is what the first thing that I saw. And we kind of, I think we also were talking about maybe like overstable 7 speeds as well. There's like kind of a hole there as well. But the biggest hole was like understable control driver section. So it's interesting that you don't have that, and you're also not a forehand player. So tell me a little bit about that. Do you feel the pain of that hole there often? Have you thought about it?
Yeah, I would say yes, in a way. I've struggled a little bit. I used to bag Leopard 3, like Champ Glow Leopard 3s, which is a little bit more stable than the like stock run of Star or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why I went out with it. I tried out like Passions as well, because it's a little bit similar to like old Cyclones from Discraft, I would say. But it's been a hard. I used to don't love T-Birds as well. I don't know why. And Eagles, you see Calvin throwing Eagles, and you just think like, oh, I'm going to bag myself infused like these Star Eagles, which is more of a like baby tilt than something that actually pushes up on a Hyzer and turns. Never happened to me at all.
Yeah. Calvin's Eagles are not Eagles anymore, sadly.
Yeah, I know. That's a sad part as well when you watch coverage and commentators actually naming out which discs. This is a common thing in Sweden as well, which I hate pretty much, because you can pull any of our bag and like, oh, Robbie's throwing a pig, which is not a pig anymore, because it's beaten to death, which a lot of pros do as well. Like they have all these season slots. So if you say, oh, Calvin's throwing a destroyer, yeah, but you don't know how beaten up that destroyer actually is. It's like when you see my bag as well, like, oh, you got a Halo destroyer. It actually doesn't fly like a Halo destroyer anymore, because it's got the turn, and it actually, goes so much further than when I bought it.
That makes sense. And then I think it's the other thing that's hard, and I told Robbie this too, it just depends on like how far you throw. When you can throw the Stieg, which is, I think that out of all of the names, that's probably hardest to like enunciate correctly for like an American accent, at least for me. Like that, like almost like throat sound you have to get for that. That's a very hard word to say.
I would say probably Elva as well.
Elva? Yeah. See, that one's fine. The Stieg, you're like, that one's just hard to say for me anyway. Anyway, so if you're throwing your like, if I gotta go back to your chart here, your Stieg, if you're throwing it like 120, 125 meters, like that's hard to like, you may not feel the pain of that, but also you said you like to throw your disc really hard. And if you need to throw something really far and really hard, I'm sure it's hard to throw. You have to probably jump all the way up to the Elva, to get any sort of turn that you need. Am I correct?
Yeah, I would say so as well. I mean, fairway slot is so not existent at this moment. So, but yeah,
because I think if I'm reading your bag correctly in the way you're playing, it's because you throw hard. So you either have to throw something slower speed hard to get there, or you have to throw something not as understable but faster hard to get it to find any left to right movement.
Yeah, I would say
what I'm trying to read here. So anyway, Robbie, let's walk through, if you want to lead me through, because I have a lot of thoughts, but I think it would be best for both Ted and our listeners if you help guide me through the field work I did today with these discs.
Yeah. So, I mean, just go ahead and tell them what you threw.
Okay, I threw Champ Sidewinder today. And then I also threw the Dome from Lone Star as well. So for those of you out there, the Sidewinder, the Champ Sidewinder flight numbers read as follows: 95, -3, 1, lies. And then the Dome is 86, -3, 1. And the Dome is in Bravo plastic as well, Robbie, just for your reference.
I love Bravo plastic so
I know
much.
you do. That's why I chose Bravo.
I think I stand by Bravo. Bravo's probably in my top 3 favorite plastics.
It's
in all of disc golf.
It's a very good plastic for sure.
So these two, we've got a Hyzer flip player here. So we're gonna let that shape the
right.
That's our lens. Hyzer flip joy. Let's lean into, like you said, automatically Sidewinder flight numbers are a lie. Talk about how close did these fly to expectations of flight numbers between the Dome and the Sidewinder?
I would say the Dome was pretty accurate, like very accurate to flight numbers. Sidewinder, especially, and I knew this going, for me, the Sidewinder, I told Robbie this is a disc that when someone's like, oh, flight numbers are a lie, I think about the Sidewinder, like automatically. That and the Roadrunner, I think about both of those discs.
You used
because
to buy Roadrunners.
Yeah. So I feel like both of those discs are like not what you think they're going to be.
Halo Roadrunner is like not at all flippy.
No,
whatsoever.
not at all. And even this Champ Sidewinder was, I wouldn't call it flippy for me. I would call it, I could make it turn if I wanted to. And I would say that it wouldn't like, it would go very straight for me, but I couldn't. Now, can I Hyzer flip things easily? No, there's certain things I can, but it's a skill I'm working on. Could not flip this up. Like I would just, whatever, it went straight. Like if I threw it on my baby Hyzer, it would go straight, but it would not flip up. It would not even turn for me. So -3, 1, not even close for me.
And then the Dome?
So Dome is exactly what I expected. It would flip up. Again, this was an easy disc for me to flip up. I usually have to find something pretty understable to flip up like that. It would flip up and just turn. And then that 1 at the end on fade, it was very true. I feel like it was very accurate to the flight numbers. It would flip up, turn for a long time, and then like once the rotation slowed down, it would actually fade a little bit, like tiniest bit. Very like jackalope-esque for me, Robbie, how like the jackalope flies. So maybe not even maybe not -3, maybe like -2, 1, maybe -2.5, 1, but still pretty accurate to the flight numbers I felt.
Okay. Did you throw either of these like hard? I know traditionally when we have like a lighter or like a more turned disc, we kind of like back off on it a little bit.
Yeah.
But did you give either of those some like heavy juice?
Oh, Dome I did not, because I knew like the Dome would just turn into infinity and like would never come back. So the Sidewinder I did, the last throw I threw with the Sidewinder, actually, I was like, I'm just going to hit this as hard as I can. It did like flip up is a very not accurate description. I did see it at the initial out of my hand. It kind of went like this. Let's just say it came out like this. It kind of went bloop, like that. I saw that little bit of flip up, and it went probably 25 to 30 feet further than my other like backhands with it when I gave it more power. So that would be, I'll say that discussion for later if you ask, but it's really going to come into play when we talk about like you like to throw discs hard. I feel like this is a disc you throw hard and maybe get more intended flight than I did out of like the disc compared to the flight numbers. I also threw them both on forehand, Robbie, which was a fun experiment. And the same thing with forehand. I felt, because I do have a pretty steep Hyzer release on forehand, and I feel like I could just kill the Sidewinder and not worry about it flipping up and rolling over, which was nice. It did flip up on forehand for me, but I will say I do throw my forehand, and this is probably another episode, Robbie, but I tech disc my forehand. I throw my forehand like probably 5 to 6 mile an hour faster than my backhand. with less rotation. So we'll talk about that at a different time. But anyway, it like did flip up a little bit on forehand, but it just would never even think about rolling over. And I feel like it hit it hard and push. I could even push a Hyzer if I wanted to with the Sidewinder, which was kind of funny. The Dome, I could just kind of smooth out. It would like flip up, turn, and have like a full flex flight. And I mean, I was throwing the Dome 320 was a measurement I had on forehand. And then the other ones were consistently like right at 300, maybe a little shy of 300 on forehand. So not bad. And then Sidewinder was like 270. Not, but I definitely couldn't get the distance. So like 83 meters, Ted, on the Sidewinder. So not bad, but I felt like I just forced it. I just kind of like knuckleballed it that way. Like I didn't get like I didn't smooth it out. So that's kind of like where we kind of landed. Backhand distance was, I don't think I threw a throw under 300 feet with either of them, which is great. 91 to 92 meters, something like that. And I definitely felt like I could get more distance out of the Sidewinder, but I think it was because I could give it more power. And I felt like there was like a cap of power I could give the Dome.
So, Ted, do you have experience throwing a Sidewinder?
I think I've got a Halo Sidewinder somewhere, but its flight number's a lie.
Yeah.
It's not flippy at all. It's more dumpy than my, like a Firebird-ish.
Yeah. That is when before we even started recording, Brad and I were talking about the Sidewinder, and I was like, because the Sidewinder is so old, it's very similar to the Destroyer in that like there's just so many out there. That's where it's getting its inconsistency from, is that it just depends on the Sidewinders you find. The Halos people love because they're not flippy.
I kind of hated it
because
that was not what I was going for at all. Like I have Star Roadrunners that are so much more flippy than the Sidewinder, which doesn't make sense at all.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess it would really come down for me, Brad, of like, we see that he likes to throw hard. We see that we want some turn at distance. And so what do you feel like? Do you feel like either of these molds really capitalize on that? Or are they both kind of like, one has the easy turn but can't handle the hard throw? One has the handles the hard throw but doesn't have the turn. Like, do you feel like you're kind of caught between two or rock and hard plays here?
I really do. And it's one of the first times I felt that way, just because I don't know. Like, I don't know. It would be one of those, like, I might have to, it'd be nice to get like Hunter to throw the Sidewinder and like me watch how that flies for him. Cause I feel like you throw probably a very similar distance to him on backhand. That's like my reference, or because you're a baby Hyzer player. Hunter's definitely a Hyzer player. Trevor wouldn't be a good example because he's more of like a straight turnover kind of. Yeah. So I don't know. I may just see what Hunter's experience is with the Sidewinder. I mean, he's thrown plenty of Innova in his day. And then like I think the Dome is the flight you need for your bag. However, I don't think that comes from, like, that's me throwing it. I get that flight. I don't know if it's going to be like, I'll just learn to use some touch with this disc, or if it's going to be frustrating for you.
To be honest, I tried out the Falk from Kastaplast, which is a turn and burn for me. Like, even if I put it on like this Hyzer, like super steep Hyzer, just pops up and then just rolls over. It doesn't handle the torque at all. But the thing is, Anders, my friend, he used to work at the Kastaplast factory in Vinninga, where they actually started out. He has some super old Falk, which are, I can throw them flat and it get a little bit of turn and then just dumps back. I can't get it to roll over even if I try it. Like, I put it on an Anheuser, it just keeps and then fights back, which is not a Falk.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is a Falk, I don't know. And they just butchered the mold along the way.
Yeah, I would say if that is a turn and burn, then I would say the Dome's definitely going to turn and burn.
Oh, you're going to destroy it. Yeah, it's going to explode.
because for me, where I told Brad where a dome ended up in my bag. I didn't know that mold existed, and I lost a disc while I was traveling. And the place, like the local shop, had Lone Star, so I ended up with a dome. And it was one that, playing long wooded golf, I could throw super simply down here on Hyzer and watch it stand all the way up, ride pretty straight, and then just, I wouldn't say it finished, but it was like it would drop left, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it never like fell out of the sky pushing left, but it was just, it dropped left. So I definitely would say the Sidewinder there. And I think the other beautiful part about the Sidewinder is that like it would feel easier to hunt down other Sidewinder options with what you've got over in Europe versus, I'd imagine the Lone Star selection over there is not,
It's pretty slim,
super developed.
to be honest. I think it's like one retailer actually has Lone Star. But I actually saw that they had a huge clearance sale on Lone Star as well.
Yeah, you'll see more of that probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Sidewinder is a good choice. Am I 100% confident it's going to be what you need?
I think you're on the right track, because I actually bought a Sidewinder for that slot with the Halo Sidewinder, but it's just that's been super OS. It didn't fit the bag, because I kind of like the feel of it, and also that run of Halo was like super stiff as well, and I hated that. Hand feel was terrible.
Right.
So I think could be a good fit for that, like stand up ride, turnover, and just continue.
Because I think the Champ's not. I did say this one off. So my son has a Halo Sidewinder that will flip up and go straight, which is crazy. But it's also like 150 class. So let's just keep that where it is. But yeah, I think this might be, I feel good with, although I don't feel 100% on the Sidewinder, I do feel 75%. So that's better than like 10%. And I threw two, and what I actually also, this one's 172 and this one's 170, like 4. I might send you even the lighter one, just so we really make sure that we can get some turn for you.
Sweet.
Yeah. Well, Ted, would you be willing to come on a future episode and let us know how the Sidewinder flies?
Of course.
All right, man.
I think people will see, based on the length of the episode alone, it was a delight having you on.
Yes, for sure.
So it's not long because anyone's long-winded. It's long because we enjoyed the conversation. So
Same here.
Very much appreciate you, and appreciate your insight on trying. I'm going to go ahead and I'll say this publicly. Knowing that the Berg is actually pronounced the Baddie should make even more people want to bag a Berg. Yeah. Like, oh, what'd you throw? I'm a baddie. I'm a baddie who throws the baddie. That is
spot on.
Well played. Well played. You've got me pondering.
Yeah, I don't know that I can ever say Berg again. Like I'll feel like an idiot if I say Berg. But also people look at me like an idiot if I say body.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the baddie.
Oh, I'm bagging the baddie, just so you guys know.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, what is that? I'm like, oh, you're like, oh, the Berg. I got you. Like, oh. So maybe that's a custom run. Maybe we'll talk about that off air, Robbie. The baddie. Yeah. I think that's great.
Here for it. Well, Ted, we appreciate you, man. And we'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you.
Bang. Y'all, I say it's a long episode. You probably saw it when you clicked on it. Hey, but when you're vibing with a guest, the time flies by. It literally was, I looked down and was like, oh, we're already over an hour. Here we go.
Yeah, but it was nice. And I mean, it's really cool when you have someone that's like so close to like information you've always like wondered about, right? Like even just as simple, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe no one even cares at all about how these discs are pronounced. But since the day I saw them, I've always wondered like, oh, I wonder how you say this. I wonder how you say that. And like I said, and when we were talking to him, it was just always very interesting, like their lineup and the flight numbers of their lineup and the discs they chose. But it makes a lot more sense to me now hearing the I guess the backstory and like what kind of courses they have and that sort of thing. So I'm always wanting knowledge, and I love it when people are willing to give that to us. So appreciate Ted being able to taking the extra time and putting up with a little bit of American ignorance on how to pronounce Swedish things. And I love that he came prepared on meters to feet, and you were ready for meters.
We're
feet
ready
to meters.
dance both ways.
Yeah,
we were all on the dance floor having a good time with it. I will say knowing, like I said, Baddie, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Sick. Also makes me think if that is the Swedish word for mountain, is Baddie or Berg, what their word is for ice, because now calling an iceberg an ice mountain makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
Just like from how the English language is developed. So.
Yeah. Very, wow.
Right? Like that has to be what it is, right? Like it is a mountain made out of ice. That's an iceberg. So wild times. But we do have other wild times, which includes what's new in the warehouse coming up. But before we dive in, ABB, what quick word from our sponsors?
All right, now we're back. And while we took our sponsor break, Robbie, I had to Google the iceberg thing. And because I'm like, you just blew my mind. Like, I can't even think about disc golf. I'm thinking about icebergs right now. And the Swedish, it's just spelled ISBERG, iceberg. Like, that's what it is. And of course, our Swedish friends developed the word for an iceberg because they're dealing with them. They're up there. It's cold. There's icebergs. So iceberg literally means ice mountain. Oh. I need to go to bed. I don't even know. I don't know why that just hit me so hard, but I just blew my mind. Anyway, warehouse, which is not a block of ice. It's actually pretty fire this week because we have, if you're a fan of our trucker hats, our performance trucker hats, restock. If you're a fan of comfort collars, we have a lot of those in-house. They're not even print on demand. We got some Robbie C shirts even in comfort collars. Just heads up on that. We got some Foundation combo stamps. We've got Bogey Bro performance shirts. We've got Dark Horse, which I'm actually wearing today, ironically. And so we have all that happening. We have some Discraft restocks. We have the drop that dropped, the Niklas Antila drop, which feels so much like a zone. I don't know if you felt one yet, Robbie, but I
actually got to hold Niklas's.
Did you? That's sweet.
Final round. We're all sitting around at Worlds, and like, dude, having been around the warm up area for Worlds the entire week, right? And Sully played well, so it's not like we were like, with the 10:30 tee times and. Like we were gonna be catching up with the final or like League Card Women's, so everything was like super casual because I feel like you experienced both sides of that at a tournament. And final day, literally like everyone on lead and chase card, all just sitting around, just yapping. And Niklas was like, "Oh yeah, I have the drop here. This is new disc." And the Discraft guys are holding them. They're like, "So it's a zone." And they're like, "Yeah." Brad, they just get up and start throwing it.
Really?
Like, it literally felt like if you and I were sitting there at Timbrook waiting on Hunter and Trevor to arrive so that we could play a nice casual doubles round. That was the vibe. So yes, I have felt the drop, and I've thrown the drop.
You felt the drop.
Like it's a zone. It's a zone, y'all.
So maybe if you're like, I'm a Discmania,
in a different plastic.
Yeah, it's glow, which is cool. So if you need a nice refresh on a glow zone, you're like, I don't want to throw a glow zone, or I can't find one. That's a great spot. They feel great. They feel amazing. Just feel exactly like a zone. So we have those. We also have some Raptor Claw Orbit Ice Trespass that has the Ricky Raptor Claw on it, which is pretty cool as well. And then they just literally came in the warehouse as I was filming this. I told Robbie, we have the MVP Open MVP discs have arrived. Unfortunately, they back ordered all the other stock discs I ordered with them. So I don't know when those are going to come in. Sorry for those of you who are wanting a trail. They're on order whenever they send them to me. But for now, we have cool stuff. I think the Parachute is in there. The Shift is in there. There's some other really cool molds, really cool plastics. And Robbie's getting blown up with them in Slack right now. I think
I am. Literally, I'm looking at these as y'all are hearing about them.
Yeah, very sick.
It's crazy.
Yeah, there's not a ton of them, so make sure you grab them while you can. But a lot of cool stuff. I'm excited. I think I'm gonna throw the Parachute just because I want to be that guy. But the Shift sounds really cool. It's basically a 9-speed version of kind of what we threw today, I guess, which is great timing. So if you are looking for a flippy fairway, that might be the answer to your woes. But one other thing I also want to shout out, the monthly box this month, it's already kind of been spoiled. I'll spoil it again. It's Trevor's box this month. I will say if any of you all were people that were like, we need another Trevor Supra, this is your chance. Make sure you grab the subscription box. And then as another hint, next month's box is going to be a little out of this world. So make sure you check out. You're going to want to stay sub for the next couple months. We've got some crazy boxes coming in. So make sure you do that. And Robbie's been having a great time with lessons. Robbie, give us a little recap of your lessons you've been doing.
Yeah, I've done 14 lessons in the last week. So
Right.
It's been cooking. So y'all, it's been a blast. We've done mostly backhand lessons, but several forehand lessons, and a putting lesson, which was really fun. For those of you watching, I actually, for people who are like interested in how a putting lesson goes, I did an in-person putting lesson that dropped on my channel. Y'all are listening to this on Friday. It dropped on Thursday. So it just shows you insight in like what a putting lesson looks like for me. And honestly, Ryan had a lot of his stuff figured out in that lesson heading in. So we can even get more basic than if like your putt doesn't look like it starts like Ryan's, we can work on that too. So it's just been a blast. It's really fun. For those, we actually were having a discussion in the Birdie Fam last night about lessons, Brad, because they were like, we get Birdie Fam, because I do form reviews inside of the Birdie Fam every month, that side of Patreon. And so it's like, what's the lesson for? And it's 30 minutes of, I get to like, if you're going to send a video ahead of time. So now instead of just, like most amateurs, your feet are open. It's different when I have you there and I'm drawing, showing your foot is actually opened and things like that. So that's really helpful. And then also a chance for you to ask questions where I'm like, hey, I want you to get into this position. Okay. And I can tell you, I need that elbow back a little more. I need that elbow a little higher so that you can actually feel the positions. And because it's one-on-one, you can ask questions in return. It just goes really well. You don't have to be in a field. These are the common questions I'm getting. Do I need to send video ahead of time? Yes, that helps make it way more efficient. Do I need to be in a field ready to go? We're honestly about 50-50 right now on lessons, where half the people are sitting in a desk like me and Brad are doing right now and just kind of watching and we discuss. And then the other half are kind of out at a course. The pros and cons of like at a course, you probably busy and the 30 minutes will go by even faster if you have to go pick up your discs. But also if you want the chance to like throw one and feel how it feels, and other people have had like a net set up as well. So we can do kind of all the above. Really up to you, but it's been a blast and lesson slots are open. Jason texted me amidst this because I thought I had blocked off USDGC. I hadn't. So people could have booked lessons while we're all at USDGC. So that is currently blocked off. I have a vacation soon. Those two things are blocked off. Everything else, literally until baby arrives, is wide open. So,
and you have mornings, you have some evenings, you have a weekend slot available here and there just to try to accommodate everybody. So
you can book 45 days in advance. And I will say that most people I've had have already been like, hey, we're going to have another lesson in the future to follow up. So that schedule is only going to get more full. So if you've been interested or curious, feel free to check one out.
Yep. Yeah. And hey, in the meantime, make sure to check out all the discs here. We got some in the bag stuff. We got some Robbie C stuff. There were like a handful of Robbie C Ozones, by the way, Robbie, that peaked back up on the site for those of you who are wanting them. There's literally like 4 or 5 of them. So make sure you grab them. Until then, hope you get your disc. We'll send it out to you. And if it's good,
keep it in the bag. We'll see you next week.